Hey, nappy friend, welcome back to our nappy little club. You're home now, and we saved your spot. Tonight we're drifting back in time, carried on a warm, gentle breeze across the vast, shimmering expanse of the Sahara. Imagine an ocean of sand, not of water, where the waves are silent dunes and the sun is a relentless golden orb hanging in a sapphire sky. You can almost feel the dry heat on your skin, a comforting warmth from within the safety of your cozy bed. You can taste the faintest hint of salt on the air, a mineral tang that speaks of ancient earth and immense wealth. We are journeying with a salt caravan from the legendary Mali Empire, a river of camels and traders navigating a world of profound silence and stark beauty. You probably wouldn't survive this for more than a day, let's be honest, but here, nestled in your pillows, you're perfectly safe and wonderfully relaxed. So before your eyelids get too heavy, if you genuinely enjoy what I do here, tap that like button and subscribe to keep our sleepy adventures coming. After all, nobody wants to miss out on history, right? Feel free to leave a comment and let our little community know where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's always nice to know where our fellow sleepyheads are dozing off. So dim your lights, tune into the soft, comforting fan, hum, and ease gently into tonight's journey, because you're now officially in Nappy community. You're not just listening, you're an essential part of our Nappy family, where every night is soothing, special, and yours. You're safe, valued, and always welcome. You are standing on what feels like the edge of the world. Before you, the landscape is mercilessly flat, a cracked white plain that glares under the African sun. This is Tagaza, a name whispered with a mixture of dread and reverence across the great desert. It is less a town and more a wound in the earth, a place where the ground itself is the treasure. You are in one of the great salt mines of the Sahara, the source of the white gold that fuels empires. There are no rolling hills here, no gentle streams, only the blinding reflection of sunlight on a floor of pure crystalline salt. The air is so dry it seems to pull the moisture directly from your lungs, and every surface is coated in a fine, gritty powder. You follow the rhythmic, percussive sound, a dull thud, thud, that seems to be the only heartbeat in this desolate expanse that you see them now, the miners. Their bodies, lean and hardened by the sun and the salt, move with an economy of motion born from endless repetition. They are not digging deep into the earth in dark tunnels, as you might imagine. Instead, they are coring the very ground you stand on. The top layer of sand and earth has been scraped away to reveal a thick, solid bed of salt, layered in shades of gray and milky white. Using long-handled picks and heavy mallets, the men cut deep grooves into the salt bed, outlining enormous, rectangular slabs. It's a slow, arduous process. Each strike of the pick sends a small shower of salty crystals into the air, which glitter like diamonds for a moment before settling. You watch as a team of men uses large wooden wedges and levers to pry a finished slab from its ancient resting place. It comes free with a deep groan, a sound of protest from the earth itself. The slab is immense, nearly 2 meters long and half, a meter thick, and it glows with a soft, translucent light, like a block of captured moonlight. This single piece of salt, hewn from the ground with sweat and rudimentary tools, is worth a fortune. In the markets of Timbuktu and Gao, it will be traded for gold dust, for fine cloth, for grains, for life itself. This is a well-established historical fact. For centuries, salt was one of the most powerful economic forces in West Africa. Its value came not just from its ability to season food, but its crucial role in preserving it in a world without refrigeration, and its necessity for human and animal health died as the sun begins to dip lower, casting long, distorted shadows across the white plain. You turn your attention from the mines to the settlement itself, and here you encounter a sight strange. It feels like a dream. The small, squat buildings that huddle together for protection against the wind are not made of mud or stone. They are built from the very salt they are mining. The walls are rough-hewn, blocks of salt, their crystalline structures catching the fading light. The effect is surreal, as if the village was carved from a glacier. You've stumbled upon one of the most eccentric details of Tagaza, a fact recorded by the great 14th century traveler Ibn Battuta. He described it as a village with no good in it, except, of course, for its immense wealth in salt. He noted with astonishment that the houses and even the local mosque were constructed from salt blocks with roofs made of camel skins. Imagine living in a house you could lick. It's the kind of architectural choice that suggests either a profound sense of irony or complete lack of other building materials. Given the surroundings, you suspect it's the latter. There are no trees for wood, no quarries for stone. There's only salt, sand, and sky. The people who live in these salty houses are a subject of much quiet study. Historians still discuss the precise social dynamics of Tagaza. While it's known that a significant portion of the workforce was composed of enslaved people from the south, the full picture is more complex. You see different groups of people moving through the village. There are the overseers, likely representatives of the Mali Empire or the Tuareg tribes who controlled the routes. And then there are the miners themselves. Some are clearly unfree, their movements and lives dictated by others. But scholars suggest there were also other arrangements, perhaps seasonal or indentured workers drawn by the potential for pay, however meager. It was a complex ecosystem, a hierarchy built on survival in one of the planet's most extreme environments. You wonder about their lives, their stories lost to the salty dust. What did they dream of in their salt block houses under roofs of camel hide as the cold desert night descended? As you stand there, a silent observer from the future, you feel the profound weight of this place, a testament to human greed, endurance, and the bizarre, beautiful, and brutal realities of history. As twilight bleeds across the sky, turning the harsh white plains into a softer palette of rose and lilac, you walk away from the quarry. The rhythmic thudding has ceased, replaced by a profound and ringing silence that seems to magnify the vastness of the desert around you. Your feet crunch on the salty ground, a sound like walking on crisp snow. You are heading towards the cluster of low-slung buildings you saw earlier, the village of Tagaza. From a distance, it looked like a mirage, an architectural folly. Up close, it's even more strange and strangely beautiful. The last rays of the sun penetrate the salt block walls, causing them to glow from within, as if each house held a captured sunset. You run a hand over one of the walls. It's rough, cool, and leaves a fine white powder on your fingers. You bring them to your lips, and taste the sharp, familiar tang of salt. It's an entire settlement seasoned to perfection before it's even built. You pass by the entrance to the village mosque, its low minaret also carved from salt, its roof a patchwork of tanned camel hide stretched taut. The sight is so peculiar, it barely registers as real. This is the curious reality of life in Tagaza, a fact that astounded medieval travelers and continues to fascinate historians. There is an almost defiant practicality to it. In a land devoid of wood, clay, or stone, the people used the only resource they had in abundance. Yet you can't help but think about the fragility of it all. This is one of the driest places on Earth, but a single, freakish rainstorm, an event that might happen once a decade or once a century, could cause the entire town to soften and weep, its structures slowly melting back into the earth from which they were carved. It adds a layer of quiet existential dread to the already harsh existence here. The residents live in a state of constant, slow-motion dissolution. As you wander through the narrow, crooked alleys between the salty homes, the smells of evening begin to fill the air. You smell the dry, smoky scent of fires being lit, fueled by precious little scrub brush and dried camel dung carried in by the caravans. And mingling with the smoke is the aroma of the evening meal. It is not a rich or varied smell. You smell roasting meat, camel meat, tough and stringy, the only livestock that can survive out here. This was the staple, a historical fact confirmed by those who passed through. The entire population of Tagaza was utterly dependent on the caravans they served. They grew nothing, for nothing could grow. Their diet consisted of the dates and millet that the caravans brought from the north, and the smoked camel meat they traded for. You see a woman stirring a pot over a small fire, her face illuminated by the flickering flames. Her pantry is the camel train that will depart in a few days. They are living on an island of salt in an ocean of sand, sustained only by the thin, fragile thread of commerce that connects them to the outside world. You notice the quiet, almost invisible transactions taking place. A miner, his day's work done, barters with a trader, but no coins exchange hands. Instead, the trader breaks off a small, sharp-edged piece from a larger salt slab and hands it to the miner, who inspects it carefully before tucking it away. This was another of Tagaza's oddities. In a place that was the source of so much wealth for the Mali Empire, local currency was often just salt itself. Small chips for small purchases, larger chunks for more significant exchanges. The very thing they labored to excavate was also the medium of their meager personal economies. There's a quiet irony in that, to be surrounded by a treasure that makes distant kings wealthy, yet to conduct your own life with its broken shards. Deeper in the village, you witness a subtle but significant interaction. A man in dyed robes, clearly an official from the southern cities of the Mali Empire, is speaking with a tall, weathered Tuareg elder. The Tuareg's face is a road map of wrinkles, his eyes dark and sharp, his head wrapped in a deep blue tagelmust that covers all. But his eyes, the Malian official is respectful, his tone measured, but there is an air of authority about him. The Tuareg elder, in contrast, is perfectly still, his posture relaxed but radiating a sense of deep-rooted command. This is the physical embodiment of a debate that still murmurs in academic circles. Who truly controlled Tagaza? On paper, it belonged to the powerful Mansa of Mali, who grew fabulously wealthy from the taxes levied on the salt trade. But the mines were situated deep within the traditional territory of the Tuareg nomads, specifically the Masufa clan. They were the masters of the desert, the only ones who knew the secret paths and hidden wells necessary to cross the Sahara. They controlled the caravans. You sense the delicate balance of power in this quiet conversation. The Mansa owned the mine, but the Tuareg owned the road. One could not function without the other. It was a partnership born of necessity, a political arrangement as stark and unforgiving as the landscape itself, held together by mutual interest and the silent threat of what each could withhold from the other. As night finally claims the sky, a brilliant, star-dusted canopy, unimpeded by any competing light, the village settles into a hush, a community suspended in salt and starlight, awaiting the dawn. Long before the sun considers its ascent, you are awake. The cold of the desert night has seeped deep into the ground, and a profound stillness hangs in the air. You are a Mastin. You lie on a simple woven mat, a few paces away from the salt block, village and the temporary encampment of your people, the Kel Tamashek, the Tuareg. The air you breathe is different from the air in the village. It is cleaner, sharper, less thick with the ghosts of yesterday's labor. You rise not with a jolt, but with the slow, fluid grace of someone whose movements are in perfect harmony with the rhythms of the world around them. The others are still asleep, wrapped in their wool blankets, their slow, deep breaths the only sound in the darkness. You pull your tagelmust, the iconic deep blue veil of your people, up over your nose and mouth, leaving only your eyes exposed. The soft indigo-dyed cotton is cool against your skin, a familiar comfort and a symbol of who you are, a free man of the desert. Your first ritual is to look up. The sky is an ink-black dome awash with a dizzying spray of stars. To others, it is a beautiful but chaotic spectacle. To you, it is a map, a clock, and a compass. You find the fixed North Star, the anchor of the heavens, and trace the familiar constellations that will guide your path south. You note their position, calculating the remaining hours of darkness. There is no urgency in your observation, just a quiet confirmation of what you already know in your bones. You then turn your face to the east, closing your eyes. You are not looking for light, you are feeling for the wind. You sense its subtle direction, its temperature, its dryness. It carries whispers of the day to come, a promise of calm, steady heat, with no hint of a sandstorm on the horizon. This is knowledge that cannot be taught from a book. It is a language you have been learning since you were a child, a continuous conversation with the vast and powerful entity that is the Sahara. Your second ritual is one of prayer, a quiet moment, of connection to the divine, grounding your spirit before the long day begins. Then you walk. You move silently past the sleeping forms of your companions and towards the great, silent stacks of salt slabs. They are waiting, inert and heavy, gleaming faintly in the starlight. You are the caravan's guide. It's Madigu, but your responsibility begins long before the first step of the journey is taken. Your family has been in this trade for generations, and you carry their reputation with you. You run your hand over the cool, gritty surface of a slab, your fingers tracing the faint lines of its crystalline structure. You are checking for fractures, for impurities. A slab that breaks midway through the journey is more than just a loss of profit. It's a disruption, a danger, a broken promise. Your mother, a woman whose sharp eye for trade is legendary in your clan, taught you what to look for: the milky, opaque quality that denotes strength, the clean, sharp edges from the miner's picks. You think of her now, imagining her nod of approval. This reference to female authority is a quiet hallmark of your people. While the world around you is one of patriarchs and kings, among the Tuareg, lineage is traced through the mother, and women command immense respect and own property. Your mother's opinion on the quality of this salt carries more weight for you than that of any distant Mansa. You are the living embodiment of a question scholars will one day debate. Is the Tuareg art of navigation a science or an intuition? As you stand there, your mind is already moving south. You are not thinking of abstract headings or calculated distances. Instead, you are tracing a map of memory and sensation. You see in your mind's eye a particular set of 3 dunes, shaped like sleeping giants, that you must pass on the 3rd day. You can feel the texture of the ground changing after a week's travel, from hard-packed gravel to soft, whispering sand. You remember the story your grandfather told you about a particular acacia tree, a lone survivor that marks a hidden, brackish well. This knowledge is a tapestry woven from myth, empirical data, song, and an instinct so deep it feels like a magnetic pull in your own heart. You don't navigate the desert. You are a part of it, and it tells you where to go. You cannot separate the learned stories from the felt sensations, and you would never try. They are one and the same. You find a particular slab that pleases you, noting its near-perfect dimensions and weight. This one will be a gift, not for the traders in Timbuktu, but for someone more important. It's a small, personal indulgence, a silent tradition. A light-hearted thought crosses your mind as you see one of the older camels, Rashid, stir in his sleep. You know he will be grumpy and complain with loud, guttural groans when the loading begins. The thought brings a flicker of a smile to your eyes, the only part of your face visible to the world. It's a small moment of levity, a private joke. In the immense seriousness of your task, the sky in the east is now softening, shifting from black to the faintest shade of bruised purple. The day is coming. The pact with the sands has been renewed for another journey. Your quiet, solitary inspection is over. Now the slow, rhythmic work of waking the caravan, of burdening the camels, of beginning the long march is about to begin, and you are ready. With the eastern horizon now a soft, glowing line of pale orange, you give a low, two-toned whistle. It's not loud, but it cuts through the pre-dawn chill with perfect clarity. Immediately, the camp begins to stir. Figures rise from their mats, folding their blankets with practiced efficiency. There is no shouted conversation, no sense of rush. It's a silent, synchronized awakening, a human clockwork powered by generations of repetition. You are watching the caravan come to life, a process as rhythmic and natural as the rising sun itself. The air fills with the soft shuffling of feet on sand, the clink of metal cups, and the deep, resonant rumbling of the camels. Oh, the camels! They are the heart and soul of this entire enterprise, and they make sure everyone knows they are. Awake, Dot. You walk towards the area where the animals were hobbled for the night. There are over 100 of them, their long, lashed eyes blinking slowly in the growing light. They are dromedaries, the single-humped ships of the desert, their bodies, perfectly engineered for this environment. Their wide, leathery feet spread out to walk on soft sand. Their humps are reserves of fat for energy, and they can close their nostrils against blowing sand. They are also, you reflect, masters of the dramatic complaint. As the cameleers approach, to unhobble them, a chorus of groans, moans, and guttural belches erupts. It's a daily performance of protest, and you find it strangely reassuring. You see your old friend Rashid, the grumpy camel you noted earlier, letting out a particularly theatrical roar as a young boy approaches him. It's all bluster. You know for a fact that Rashid is one of the most reliable and steady animals in the entire caravan. He just likes to make his opinion known. This intimate knowledge of each animal's personality is a key, if often overlooked, part of a caravan's success. A good cameleer doesn't just manage a herd. He manages a collection of individuals. Breakfast is a simple, efficient affair. Small fires are rekindled, and pots of water are set to boil. A handful of roasted millet is thrown in, creating a warm, nourishing porridge. You eat your portion quickly, along with a few sweet, sticky dates brought from the north. The sweetness is a welcome contrast to the salty air of Tagaza. As you eat, you watch your men. They are all Tuareg family and clan members, their faces etched with the same resilience and quiet competence that you feel in yourself. The Azalai, the Great Salt Caravan, can sometimes number in the thousands, a moving city of camels. Your group is a more modest contingent, but it is part of that same vast, ancient network. Each man knows his role without being told. Now the main event begins, loading the white gold. The process is a careful dance of strength and balance. First, the specialized wooden saddles, or rala, are placed on the camels' backs, cushioned by thick layers of blankets to prevent sores. Then, the men work in pairs to lift the immense salt slabs. 2 men hoist one slab, their muscles straining, and carefully hook it onto one side of the saddle. The camel, now half loaded, stumbles and groans, protesting the imbalance. The men quickly move to the other side, lifting a second slab of almost identical weight and securing it. The balance is critical. An improperly loaded camel can be injured or exhausted long before you reach Timbuktu. You watch the process with a keen eye, your gaze sweeping across the entire operation. You notice a young cameleer struggling to secure a rope. You don't shout or correct him publicly. You simply walk over, take the rope, and retie the specific. Not needed. A complex twist of leather that tightens under pressure. You tap his shoulder and move on. The lesson is given and received in silence. This precise balancing act is a microcosm of the larger logistical challenge of the caravan, a topic historians still puzzle over. How did they carry enough supplies for a journey that would take them across one of the most barren landscapes on Earth for nearly a month? You are a part of that living calculation. While the men load the salt, you move to another section of the camp where the most precious cargo is stored. Water. It is held in dozens of goatskin bags or gerbas, which keep the water surprisingly cool through evaporation. You lift one, then another, judging its weight, tapping its side to hear the sound of the sloshing water within. You are mentally calculating consumption against distance, factoring in the heat of the day and the condition of the animals. You do the same with the sacks of millet and dates. There is a margin for error, but it is razor thin. One miscalculation, one leaking water skin could be the difference between arriving in Timbuktu as a wealthy trader or becoming another collection of sun-bleached bones in the sand. This constant, silent risk assessment is the true burden of the May DUGU dot, as the sun finally breaks free of the horizon, bathing the entire scene in a brilliant golden light. The last slab is loaded, the last rope is tightened. The cacophony of camel complaints subsides into a low, rumbling hum of anticipation. The men mount their own riding camels, taking their positions along the line. The caravan is ready. It stands as a single long entity, a river of life poised to flow into a sea of sand. 100 camels, burdened with the wealth of the earth, waiting for your signal to begin the journey south. You stand at the back of the long, silent line of animals, the rising sun warming your shoulders. The caravan is a loaded spring, coiled with potential energy, and you are the one who will release it, but not yet. First comes the final inspection, a ritual of quiet assurance. You begin a slow walk up the entire length of the caravan, your eyes missing nothing. This is where the art of the journey is truly found, not in the grand vistas of the desert, but in the intimate details of a rope, a knot, a well-placed blanket. This is the accumulated wisdom of your ancestors, a promise whispered from one generation to the next. Your focus is on the rigging. You see how the 2 massive salt slabs on each camel are not simply tied on, but cradled in a web of thick leather. Straps. These straps lead up to the wooden frame of the saddle, the rila. This piece of technology is one of the unsung heroes of history. You pause to admire one. It's a masterpiece of engineering, a wooden skeleton designed to sit just in front of the camel's hump, resting the full weight of the cargo on the strongest parts of the animal's skeleton, its shoulders and ribs. It allows the camel to carry hundreds of pounds for hundreds of miles. Without this specific design, owned over centuries, the empires of Mali and Ghana might never have risen to such fabulous wealth. The gold would have stayed in the south, and the salt would have remained locked in the earth of the north. Entire civilizations were built on the elegant, practical architecture of this saddle. You run your hand over the ropes. They are not coarse, scratchy fibers, but are well-worn and supple, treated with animal fat to make them resistant to the dry air and the chafing of the journey. And the knots are a language in themselves. Each tie has a specific name and purpose. There is the knot for securing the main slab, a complex interlocking design that distributes pressure evenly. There is a different, simpler knot for the baggage and water skins designed to be released with a single pull. Historians of the future might debate whether these skills were static traditions or if they evolved. You know the answer. You stop and watch one of your cousins, a young man named Jabir, tighten a strap. The final knot he uses is one your grandfather brought back from a journey to Egypt, a slight variation on the traditional tamashek knot that holds better on a rounded surface. You see this living history all along the line, small, personal. Innovations woven into the great tapestry of ancient knowledge. It is not a museum piece, this expertise. It is a living, breathing thing that adapts and improves with every journey dot. As you continue your slow walk, you notice the personal touches. From the harness of a young, nervous-looking camel hangs a small, brightly colored tassel of red and blue wool. Tucked beside it is a tiny leather pouch, stitched with intricate patterns. You know it contains a pinch of sacred earth from a holy man's tomb, or perhaps a tightly folded paper with verses from the Koran. These amulets are everywhere, small, silent prayers to ward off ill fortune, the evil eye, or the mischievous. Desert spirits, the jinns. It's a charming and deeply human quirk of caravan life. These men are pragmatic and masters of their environment, but they also understand that there are forces beyond their control. They place their faith in their skills, and their animals, and in these small tokens of hope. It's a reminder that for all its economic importance, this journey is also a deeply personal and spiritual undertaking for every man here. You reach the grumpy old camel, Rashid. The cameleer tending to him, a man as old and weathered as Rashid himself, is murmuring to the animal, scratching him behind the ears. Now, you old mountain of complaints, the man whispers, his voice a low grumble. Save your groaning for the real work. This is the easy part. The camel just blinks slowly, as if considering the advice. This quiet, affectionate moment captures the essence of the relationship between a man and his camel. It is not one of master and slave, but of partners in a difficult enterprise. They are bound together by mutual dependence. The man needs the UA. The man needs the camel's strength. The camel needs the man's knowledge to find water and pasture. You see this respect in the way the blankets are smoothed, the way a strap is gently adjusted to prevent chafing, the way a reassuring hand is placed on a sturdy neck dot. You finally arrive at the head of the caravan. Your own mount, a graceful white mehari, a riding camel bred for speed and stamina, stands ready. You have completed your inspection. Every strap is secure, every load is balanced, every man and animal is prepared. The silent promises have been made. The collective knowledge of your people has been poured into these preparations, ensuring the safety of the men, the welfare of the animals, and the security of the treasure on their backs. The sun is now fully above the horizon, and the white plains of Tagaza shimmer, waiting to be left behind. You look back one last time at the long, silent line, a living chain connecting the past to the future, with a final reassuring pat on your mehari's neck. You swing yourself up into the saddle. The time for stillness is over. You are seated high atop your white mehari, the world spread out before you. The air is still and cool, but holds the promise of the day's heat. You look back at the 100 camels behind you, a long, dormant serpent of brown and beige, against the white salt flats. Every man is in his place. Every eye is on you. You do not shout an order. You simply raise your arm, hold it for a moment against the brightening sky, and then let it fall forward. It is a gesture as subtle and as powerful as a conductor lifting his baton. And in response, the symphony begins. It starts not with a crash, but with a deep, collective sigh that seems to run the length of the caravan. It is the sound of over 100 camels pushing themselves up from their haunches, a groan of leather, rope, and joints. A wave of motion ripples down the line as each animal rises, first onto its back legs, then its front, with a practiced, swaying motion. For a moment, there is a cacophony of gentle clanking and the soft thud of thousands of pounds of salt settling into place. Then, as your Mehari takes the first step, a magical thing happens. Silence. The theatrical groans and complaints of the morning have vanished. Rashid, the master of dramatic protest, is now just another silent, diligent worker in the line. You allow yourself a small, internal smile. The morning's performance is over. The real work has begun, and for that, there is only a dignified quiet. The caravan moves forward, a river of life flowing into the ocean of sand. You leave the surreal salt block village of Tagaza behind you, a strange memory already fading into the glare. You pass the last of the open quarries, the discarded tools, the mounds of saline earth. Soon even those markers are gone, and there is nothing but the Sahara. The scale of the landscape is difficult to comprehend. The sky is a vast, empty bowl of blue, and the earth is a flat, endless plate of sand and rock, stretching to a perfectly straight horizon. Your caravan is a tiny, crawling thread stitched across this immense fabric. The sun, now clear of the horizon, casts impossibly long shadows behind you, each camel and rider trailing a dark, distorted twin that stretches for meters across the sand. The dust kicked up by hundreds of wide, padded feet catches the low sun, enveloping the entire caravan in a soft, golden halo. It is a sight of breathtaking, silent majesty. You settle into the rhythm of the march. It is a slow, hypnotic sway, dictated by the deliberate, energy-conserving pace of the led camel. You travel no faster than a man can comfortably walk, a speed that feels meditative rather than hurried. This is a fundamental historical truth of the Azalai. Survival is not about speed, but about endurance. Every step is measured, every calorie of energy preserved for the long weeks ahead. The gentle, rocking gait of your Mehari becomes a part of your own breathing. Sway left, sway right. Thud, thud, thud of padded feet on the hard-packed ground. The creak of your leather saddle. This is the pulse of the journey, a slow, steady heartbeat that will measure out your days. This rhythmic monotony is not boring. It is calming, a state of focused, moving meditation. After an hour, you come to a place where the faint tracks from last season's caravan diverge. One path veers slightly to the east, the more direct and traditional route. The other veers west. This is your first true test as the Madigu. The choice is not random, and it's a constant subject of study for those who try to map these ancient highways. The routes were not fixed. They were fluid, changing with the seasons, with the shifting sands, and with the news that traveled like whispers on the desert wind. You had shared tea with a traveler from the north just a week ago, a man who had come from the oasis at Takeda. He had mentioned that the wells along the eastern path were low, that the grazing was sparse. You trust his word more than you trust tradition. Without hesitation, you guide your Mehari to the west. No one questions your decision. They trust your judgment as implicitly as you trust the stars. You are not just following a map. You are reading the living, changing story of the desert and making a choice that will affect the life of every man and animal behind you. Looking back, you are struck by the profound quietness of it all. This is a strange and beautiful secret of the caravan. It's silence. With the camels now walking on softer sand, their padded footfalls are nearly soundless. The men, walking beside their animals to conserve the camels' strength, do not speak. They communicate with an occasional hand signal or a nod. Energy, like water, is a currency too precious to be spent on unnecessary words. The only sounds are the whisper of the wind, the creak of leather, and the faint, rhythmic clinking of a cooking pot tied to a saddle. It is a ghost army, a silent river of salt and souls, gliding through the immense emptiness. Tagaza has completely disappeared now, swallowed by the curve of the earth. You are alone. You are an island of life, adrift on a sea of sand, pointed toward the promise of gold, guided by the whispers of the past and the wisdom of the stars. You are the eye of the needle through which the entire thread of the caravan must pass. As the sun climbs higher, it transforms from a friendly golden orb into a white-hot hammer in the sky. The landscape flattens into a shimmering heat haze. Mirage. All landmarks dissolve. To an untrained eye, there is no direction, only a blinding 360-degree infinity of sand and sky. But you are not untrained. You have a compass inside you, calibrated by a lifetime of observation. Your guide is the sun. During the day, you navigate by the sun's relentless arc. You know where it should be at any given hour, and by its position you hold your course steady. The primary tool, however, is your own shadow. You watch the shadow of your Mehari, a long, dark shape, stretching out to your left in the morning. Your task is to keep that shadow at a precise, consistent angle. A slight deviation, maintained for an hour, could send you miles off course. A potentially fatal error in a land where a well might be a single hidden point in 1,000 square miles of nothingness. You feel the weight of this responsibility. In your shoulders, a steady, familiar pressure. It's the weight of 100 lives, human and animal, and a fortune in salt. You welcome it. It keeps you sharp. When the sun reaches its zenith directly overhead, it feels as if the world is holding its breath. The heat is a physical presence, pressing down, silencing every sound. The shadows shrink and vanish, hiding beneath the camels' bellies. This is the time to stop. You give a signal, and the great river of camels comes to a halt. There is no shade to be found, so you create it. The men drape heavy wool blankets over the salt slabs, creating small, stifling tents of shade where they can retreat from the worst of the glare. You dismount and seek your own patch of shadow, leaning against the warm, leathery side of your camel. You drink a little water, swishing it in your mouth before swallowing, making every drop count. You chew on a piece of dried meat. This midday halt is a non-negotiable part of the desert rhythm, a tactical surrender to the sun's peak power. It's during this pause that you feel the psychological weight of the Sahara, a topic that fascinates scholars of the future. They will write about the terror of the void, the sensory deprivation that can drive men mad, but you feel none of that. For you, this immense silence is not empty. It is full. It is full of peace, of clarity. You feel at home here. But you know that, for some of the younger men, the endless horizon can be a mirror for their own anxieties. Your calm, your unwavering confidence is as vital a provision as the water in the Goatskins dot as the sun begins its slow descent. The shadows are reborn on the other side, and the march resumes. The light softens and the landscape regains its texture. You navigate now by landmarks that would be invisible to anyone else. you see a distant ridge of dark rock. You know it. Your eyes are drawn to its dark, almost polished surface. This is desert varnish, a natural coating of manganese and iron oxides built up over millennia. You instinctively read its patina. Its deep, uniform blackness tells you the rock is ancient and stable, a reliable friend on this route. A patch of lighter, fresher-looking rock would be a warning sign of a recent collapse, a change in the land's story. It is a small detail, a subtle confirmation, one of 1,000 such observations you make throughout the day. Dusk falls quickly in the desert. The furnace of the day shuts off, and the heat bleeds out of the sand, replaced by a sudden creeping cold. You choose a place to make camp, a wide, open area that offers no hiding places for predators or spirits. The camels are hobbled, and once again they begin their chorus of groans as they are relieved of their salty burdens. Small fires flicker to life, tiny sparks of orange in the vast, encroaching darkness. But your work is not over. As the last vestiges of color fade from the sky, your true map reveals itself, the stars. Free from the haze and pollution of any city, the desert sky is a spectacle of impossible brilliance. The Milky Way is not a faint cloud, but a thick, luminous river of light, so bright it seems to have texture. This is your ultimate navigational tool, a celestial map of divine precision. You find Polaris, the steadfast northern anchor. Then you turn south and trace the belt of Orion, the three sisters, which point the way toward your destination. You observe the positions of other stars, cross-referencing them, burning their locations into your mind for the morning's departure. You are practicing a form of astronomy as old as humanity itself, a science without instruments, relying only on the trained eye and the memorized stories of the sky. With the night's course confirmed, the responsibility on your shoulders finally lightens. You have steered your flock safely through another day. You can now sit by the fire, sip your sweet, hot tea, and rest under the silent, watchful eyes of the stars. Several days have passed. The flat, hard-packed ground of the Reg has gradually given way to a new world. You have entered an erg, a great sea of sand. The horizon, once a sharp, flat line, is now a soft, undulating wave of gold and ochre. You are sailing on an ocean of dunes, a landscape that is constantly in motion, sculpted by the patient, powerful hands of the wind. To a novice, this place is the definition of lost. Landmarks are temporary, routes are erased overnight. But for you, the sand itself is the map. You are here to read the desert's most secret language. You urge your Mehari to the crest of a towering dune and pause, looking out over the endless vista. Your men and the long line of camels halt behind you, trusting your stillness. You are not admiring the view. You are deciphering it. Each dune has a story to tell. You observe their shapes. Most are safe dunes, long, linear ridges that run parallel to the prevailing wind. But you also see the crescent-shaped Barchan dunes, their horns pointing downwind. Their very form tells you the direction of the wind, your invisible partner in navigation. You look at the slopes. The windward side, the side facing the wind, is a long, gentle slope of compacted sand. The leeward side, the slip face, is dramatically steep, a cascade of loose sand waiting to collapse. By reading this simple asymmetry, you can maintain your bearing with astonishing accuracy. even when the sun is hidden by clouds. Then you look closer at the colors. An outsider sees only sand. You see 100 variations of hue. There are veins of deep, reddish sand rich with iron oxide that mark older, more stable corridors through the erg. These are your highways. You see paler, almost white sand that signifies newer deposits, looser and more difficult for the camels to traverse. You guide the caravan along a subtle but distinct line where the pale sand meets the red, using it as a path as clear to you as a paved road. It's a skill that future historians will vigorously debate. How is this knowledge transmitted? Is it a formal science with rules and axioms taught from master to apprentice? Or is it a form of instinct and intuition absorbed over a lifetime? You don't have an answer in words. You never had a formal lesson. You simply remember, as a boy, riding beside your father, watching his eyes. You watched what he watched. You saw the subtle shift in color he followed, the way he avoided a certain dune shape. The knowledge wasn't given to you. You grew into it like a plant growing towards the sun. It is a part of you now, as unconscious and as reliable as breathing dot as the afternoon wears on. The character of the light changes, revealing another layer of information, the ripples. The entire surface of the sand is covered in tiny, hypnotic waves, a miniature echo of the great dunes themselves. You read their size, shape, and direction. They tell you about the most recent winds, about the stability of the sand beneath. Navigating the dunes, you reflect, is a bit like understanding a difficult relative. You must pay close attention to the smallest details, the subtle shifts in mood and texture. To avoid trouble dot as dusk begins to settle, a strange and wonderful thing happens. A low, resonant hum begins to emanate from one of the giant dunes to your west. It grows in volume, becoming a deep, vibrating drone, almost like a distant stringed instrument. A few of the younger men look around, their eyes wide with apprehension. They have heard the stories of the jinns who live in the sand, of spirits who sing to lure travelers to their doom. You raise a hand to calm them. You know this sound. It is the voice of the desert itself. It is the phenomenon of the singing sands, a rare occurrence when wind, passing over the dunes under precisely the right conditions of humidity and grain structure, causes the sand itself to vibrate and create this eerie, beautiful music. The sound is both unsettling and profoundly peaceful, a natural anthem for the setting sun. You let the sound wash over you, a reminder that this land, which seems so empty, is full of unseen forces and secret wonders. You make camp in the basin between two large dunes, sheltered from the wind. The singing of the sand fades as the air becomes still, replaced by the familiar sounds of the evening routine. As you sip your tea, you look at the dunes around you, their shapes now softened into dark, mountainous silhouettes against the starry sky. They are not a terrifying, shifting labyrinth to you. They are familiar companions. You have read their language today, and they have shown you the way. You have listened to their song. This deep, intimate connection with the earth under your feet is a form of knowledge that feels older and more profound than even the wisdom of the stars. You have successfully guided your caravan through one of its most treacherous stages, not by fighting the landscape, but by listening to it, and you sleep soundly, cradled in the heart of the moving sands. The past week has been a long, slow grind. The sea of sand has given way to a seemingly endless gravel plain, a sun-baked expanse that rattles under the camels' feet. The world has been reduced to three relentless elements: the shimmering ground, the pale, washed-out sky, and the burning sun. The water in the gerbes has a stale, leathery taste. The men's conversations have dried up, their energy conserved for the endless, rhythmic walking. The caravan has become a silent, trudging machine, moving forward on the fuel of pure determination. You feel the collective fatigue, a low hum of exhaustion beneath the quiet discipline. The oasis is no longer a point on your mental map. It is a desperate need, a prayer whispered on the dry wind. Then you detect a change. It's nothing a stranger would notice. You see a bird, a small desert lark, flying in a determined line. It is not searching for food. It is returning. Then you lift your head, pulling down your tagelmust slightly, and you breathe in. The air is different. The harsh mineral dryness is softened by the faintest, almost imperceptible hint of moisture and greenness. A scent of life. You know with absolute certainty that you are close. You give no outward sign, but a quiet current of anticipation runs through you. An hour later, you see it. It is not a grand cinematic mirage of a sprawling lake. It's far more precious, a dark green smudge against the pale brown horizon, a smudge that slowly resolves itself into the unmistakable shapes of date palms. This is the oasis of Bir El Abed, the well of the servant. It is a vital, life-giving node in the vast and arid network of the Sahara, its location a fiercely protected secret, known only to guides like you. As you draw closer, the full miracle of the place reveals itself. A cluster of 50 or 60 date palms rises from the desert floor, their fronds rustling in the breeze. The sound itself is a balm, a gentle, whispering music after the profound silence of the plains. Beneath the palms you see the impossible, a small, dark pool of open water, fed by a deep, reliable well. The caravan comes to a halt at the edge. Of the green, there is no chaotic, desperate rush to the water. Your authority and the men's deep-seated discipline holds strong. The relief is visible not in their actions, but in their eyes, in the subtle slackening of their shoulders. You dismount and walk to the edge of the pool, kneeling to scoop water into your cupped hands. It is cool and sweet, the most luxurious thing you have tasted in weeks. You drink deeply, then splash the water on your face, washing away the layers of dust and grit. It feels like a baptism. Following your lead, the men begin the orderly process of recovery. The camels, moaning with a new, gentler tone of anticipation, are led to the water in small groups. They drink with a thirst that seems bottomless, their long necks stretched down to the pool. While some men manage the animals, others begin the vital task of refilling every single water skin. Other men simply sit in the shade of the palms, their eyes closed, a rare, peaceful smile on their faces. You watch them, feeling a profound sense of satisfaction. You have led them here. You have fulfilled your promise. This oasis is more than just a pool of water. Tucked among the palms, you see two small mud and thatch huts. An old man, his wife, and their children emerge, their faces weathered but unsurprised. They are the guardians of this well. This is another layer of the oasis ecosystem. Small, permanent or semi-permanent communities who survived through a kind of desert hydroponics, carefully channeling the well water to irrigate the date palms and tiny plots of vegetables. The old woman offers you a handful of fresh dates. They are soft and honey-sweet, a world away from the dried, flattened dates you carry as provisions. The taste is pure life. This encounter brings to life a quiet historical debate. Were oases neutral ground, or were they owned territories? The answer, like most things in the desert, is complicated. This family does not demand a tax, but their stewardship of the well, keeping it clean and accessible, deserves respect and payment. You walk to your camel and retrieve the special, near-perfect salt slab you set aside in Gaza. You present it to the old man. It is not a toll. It is not charity. It is a gift and exchange. His water and dates for your salt. It is a transaction that acknowledges his ownership and your gratitude, a piece of diplomacy as vital to the journey as any navigational skill. He accepts it with a nod of grave dignity. For 2 days the caravan rests. The time is not wasted. Harnesses are mended, goods are readjusted, and most importantly, men and animals recover their strength. The air is filled with the gentle rustle of palm fronds and quiet, renewed conversations. The oppressive weight of the journey has lifted, replaced by a sense of peace and security. You sit with your back against a palm tree, watching your men laugh as they share a story. This place is a punctuation mark in the long, arduous sentence of the Sahara. It is a moment to breathe, to reset, to remember what it feels like to be truly alive, before you once again turn your face to the sand and continue the journey south. The rest at the oasis of whispering palms has infused the caravan with new life. The camels walk with a spring in their step, their humps full, their thirst quenched. The men's voices have returned, and quiet songs now occasionally drift along. The line tunes of home and hearth. You have left the great, empty plains behind, and the landscape is becoming kinder. You see the hardy, twisted shapes of acacia trees, their thorns a defense against a thirsty world. The ground is dotted with tough, resilient grasses. You are nearing the life-giving artery of the Niger River, and the desert is slowly, reluctantly, yielding its dominion. For 2 days an expectant energy has been building. Every man's gaze is fixed on the southern horizon, searching. You are the first to see it. It is not a dramatic revelation. It is a subtle thickening of the horizon, a faint, dusty haze that is different from the clean shimmer of heat. It is the breath of a city, the exhalation of thousands of cooking fires, of human life. You raise your hand and the caravan slows. A ripple of understanding passing down the line without a word. The men adjust their veils, their postures straighten. They are no longer just desert nomads. They are merchants arriving to do business in the greatest city of the Sahel. An hour later, the haze resolves into a low, tan-colored line. It is not a mirage. It is solid, real. It is Timbuktu. There are no soaring golden towers, no fantastical spires as the wilder stories in Europe might one day claim. The reality, as it comes into focus, is something more earthy, more profound. You see a sprawling city that seems to have grown directly from the soil, its buildings constructed from the same reddish-brown mud as the ground it sits on. This is the city's famous Banco architecture, a simple but elegant construction of mud brick and timber. In the warm afternoon sun, the entire city glows with a soft, golden brown light, as if lit from within. It doesn't glitter with metallic wealth. It radiates the deep, warm wealth of a place that is utterly at one with its environment. Historians will debate for centuries about the true grandeur of Timbuktu, contrasting the legend with the archaeological reality. But you, looking at it now, see no conflict. Its magnificence lies not in gold plating, but in its organic form, its sheer scale, and the knowledge of the immense human effort and commerce that it represents. It is a city made of earth, but built on salt and gold. As you draw closer, the silence of the desert is gradually replaced by the sounds of civilization. At first, it's just the distant bleating of goats, then the barking of a dog, then the unmistakable sound of human voices carried on the breeze. You pass the city's outlying wells, where women are drawing water and men are tending to small, irrigated plots of onions and gourds. Children stop their play to stare at the immense procession of camels, their eyes wide with wonder. For you and your men, the sensory input is almost overwhelming after the profound quiet of the journey. And then there is the smell. After weeks of breathing the sterile mineral air of the Sahara, the scent of Timbuktu is a physical shock. It is a complex, thick perfume of life. You can pick out the individual notes, the dusty smell of livestock, the sharp tang of wood smoke, the earthy aroma of the nearby Niger River, the scent of spices, cumin and pepper and dried chilies drifting from a marketplace, and underneath it all, the simple, powerful smell of thousands of people living in close proximity. This is the scent that travelers would remember and write about, the unmistakable olfactory signature of a thriving, bustling hub of humanity. It is the smell of society, and it tells you, more than any landmark, that your long, solitary journey is truly over. You guide the caravan towards the main approach to the city, your white mehari moving with a proud, elegant gait. The walls of the Sankar Mosque rise before you, its iconic pyramidal minaret studded with protruding timbers that serve as both decoration and scaffolding. It is not just a place of worship, but a university, a library, a beacon of Islamic scholarship that has drawn learned men from across the Islamic world. Your cargo of salt will be traded for gold, but you know that the knowledge contained within these mud walls is the city's greater treasure. The caravan passes through the unofficial gateway to the city, a wide, bustling thoroughfare. Merchants and townspeople turn to watch your arrival. They see more than 100 camels laden with the heavy, crystalline slabs of white gold. They see the lifeblood of their city's economy arriving from the desolate north. A deep sense of accomplishment settles over you, as vast and as quiet as the desert you have just crossed. You have done it. You have guided your river of salt from the heart of the Sahara to the shores of civilization. The journey is complete. You have reached the golden city of Timbuktu. After a day of rest in a sprawling fondak on the outskirts of the city, a bustling caravanserai filled with the sounds and smells of a dozen different desert peoples, the real business begins. But you do not take your precious cargo to the clamorous central market of Timbuktu. The primary exchange, the one that forms the bedrock of the entire enterprise, happens in a place of quiet reverence and deep-seated tradition. You select the finest, most uniform slabs of salt, and under the cool light of the morning, Your men load them onto a small train of camels. You lead them not into the city, but away from it, towards the humid, life-giving banks of the Niger River, a journey of a few miles. The air grows thick and moist, a stark contrast to the desert dryness you have known for a month. The scent of wet earth and river reeds replaces the dust and spice of the city. You arrive at a specific, cleared patch of ground on the riverbank. It is an unremarkable spot, distinguished only by a few ancient weathered posts. But this is sacred ground. For commerce, this is the place of the silent trade. Your men work with quiet efficiency, unloading the heavy salt slabs and arranging them in neat, separate piles on the ground. Each pile is a standard measure, a declaration of an offer. Once the last slab is in place, you give a signal. Two of your men begin to beat large, flat drums, a deep, resonant boom, boom that echoes across the water. This is the announcement. It says simply, the salt has arrived. The sound is not for the people of Timbuktu, but for the unseen ears in the lands to the south. Then you perform the most critical step of the ritual. You leave. You and your men withdraw completely, moving back several hundred yards into a copse of trees where you are hidden from view, but from where you can just make out the clearing. Now you wait. This is the barter of ghosts, a practice so ancient that even Herodotus described a similar exchange centuries before. It is a system, born of necessity, a way for two peoples to trade without a common language and, more importantly, to protect their most valuable secrets. You are the masters of the desert path. They are the masters of the gold mines. They will not reveal the location of their source, and you will not force them. The entire economy of an empire rests on this mutual, silent respect for secrecy. The waiting is a strange, meditative experience. The sun climbs higher. The river flows silently by. The world seems empty. Then you see movement. From the dense reeds and forests on the other side of the clearing, figures emerge. They are the Wangara, the famously elusive gold merchants. You cannot make out their features, only their dark forms moving cautiously into the open. They approach, your salt piles, inspecting each one carefully. They move with a quiet confidence, the silent partners in this ancient dance. You watch, holding your breath as they produce small leather pouches. From these pouches they pour glittering gold dust, creating a small shimmering mound next to each pile of salt. They are making their counter-offer. Once they are satisfied, they retreat as silently as they appeared, melting back into the landscape. The clearing is empty once more, changed only by the addition of those small, gleaming piles of gold. The second act of the ritual now belongs to you. You wait for a prescribed amount of time, giving them ample space to disappear. Then you and your men emerge from the trees and walk back to the salt. You kneel by the first pile, ignoring the salt and focusing only on the gold beside it. You scoop the fine, heavy dust into your palm. It is warm from the sun, surprisingly heavy. You let it run through your fingers, your experienced eye judging its purity and its weight. You are answering the silent question, is this a fair price? Herein lies the almost absurd trust of the system. There is nothing stopping you from taking the gold and the salt. Likewise, there was nothing stopping them from simply taking the salt. But if either side were to break the trust, the trade would cease forever. the flow of salt would stop, and the flow of gold would stop. The mutual need is the only contract, the only guarantee. It is a system of commerce so pure and so reliant on honor that it feels almost holy. While scholars of the future will debate whether the invisibility of the traders was absolute or merely ceremonial, for you, in this moment, they are ghosts. They are spirits of the river who trade in the sun's captured light, and you will not disrespect the ancient rules of their engagement. You move from pile to pile, inspecting the gold. For some piles the offer is good. You signal to your men, who take the gold dust and leave the salt slab in its place. The deal for that pile is done, but next to one large, particularly fine slab, the pile of gold seems small. It is not a fair offer. You do not shout, you do not argue. You simply leave it. You touch neither the gold nor the salt. You and your men retreat once more into the trees to wait. This is the signal that you are not satisfied. The ghost-like merchants will, in their own time, return. They will either add more gold to the pile, or, if they believe their offer was fair, they will retrieve their gold, leaving the salt for you. Today they add more gold. You return a final time, accept the new offer, and the silent transaction is complete. You have exchanged the white gold of the desert for the yellow gold of the forest, without speaking a single word to your trading partners. The gold is secured, safely stored in heavy leather pouches. The primary purpose of your long and arduous journey is fulfilled, but the journey is not yet over. You have entered the final phase, the one that happens not in the tense silence of the river bank, but in the noisy, vibrant heart of Timbuktu itself. You sit now on a plush woven rug in the shaded courtyard of a wealthy Mandinka merchant. The air, which was humid and still by the river, is here dry and fragrant with the scent of sweet mint tea and perhaps a hint of expensive incense. The remaining salt slabs, those of lesser quality, or the ones you held back for this very purpose, are stacked neatly against a mud brick wall. The silence of the desert has been replaced by the rich symphony of the city, the murmur of negotiations in half a dozen languages, the distant clang of a blacksmith's hammer, the laughter of children playing in a nearby alley. Here, the trade is different. It is personal, verbal, and alive with human interaction. The merchant, a man named Babatun, whose robes are made of fine indigo-dyed cotton, appraises a slab of your salt. He runs a hand over its surface, then chips off a tiny piece and places it on his tongue, his eyes closing for a moment as he judges its quality. There is no need for ghosts here. You haggle, but it is a gentle, ritualized dance. It is a form of conversation, a way of feeling each other out. You speak of the journey, of the hardships, and he speaks of the poor harvest, of the high demand. It is a performance, and both of you know your lines perfectly. You do not trade this salt for gold. The gold is for the powers that be, the silent partners, the Mansa himself. This salt is for you, for your men, for your families. You trade it for the necessities and luxuries that the desert cannot provide. Babatun offers you bolts of fine cloth, woven with intricate geometric patterns. You trade another slab for a crate of kola nuts, their bitter taste a welcome stimulant for the long journey home. You acquire spices that have traveled from even farther east, bags of dried peppers, and intricately worked leather goods. This is the other side of the great trade network, the goods that flow north, carried back in the empty panniers that once held salt. After the last price is agreed upon, the true exchange begins. Babatun's servant pours steaming, sweet tea into small glasses. The tension of business dissolves into the ease of companionship. This, you know, is where the most valuable currency is traded: information. This is the eccentric and vital role of the Matigu, the caravan guide. You are not just a transporter of goods, you are a living newspaper. Babatun asks you about the desert. How are the wells at El Araun? He asks. Are the northern tribes at peace? Your answers, detailing the state of the route, the political climate in the north, the presence of rival caravans, are worth more to him than another slab of salt. This knowledge will inform his decisions for the next season, protecting his investments and his own traders. In return, he shares the stories of the South. He tells you of the new gold discoveries in the lands of the Akan people, of the shifting alliances among the river kingdoms. He speaks of the scholars at the Sankar University, just a few streets away. He tells of a new book of astronomy, painstakingly copied by scribes from a text that arrived from Cordoba, that is causing a stir among the city's intellectuals. This brings to life the great historical truth of Timbuktu. It was a city built, not just on commerce, but on the exchange of ideas. This reverence for the written word always fascinates you. You are a man of the oral tradition, of memorized stories and star maps held in the mind. Yet you deeply respect the power of the book, and this respect is a subject of quiet debate for future historians. How far did the city's literary culture penetrate the societies around it? You provide a small piece of the answer. For your final, most perfect slab of salt, the one you saved as a gift back into Gaza, you ask for something special, not gold, not cloth. Babatun leads you to a man who sits in a small, dusty room, surrounded by stacks of paper and pots of ink. A scribe. For your slab of salt, you commission a single, beautifully rendered page of poetry from the great Rumi, its elegant Arabic script, a work of art. You cannot read the words yourself, but you know their power. It will be a gift for your clans. Elder, who will have a traveling scholar read it to him. The page is a treasure, as precious as any gold, a piece of the world's wisdom to be carried back across the sand's dot as evening falls. You sit in the courtyard, the day's business done. The journey's cycle is complete. The salt has been transformed into gold, into cloth, into spices, into stories, and into a page of beautiful words. You feel a deep, quiet contentment. You have braved the void, navigated by sand and star, and fulfilled your duty. Soon you will gather your men, load your camels with these new treasures, and turn your face to the north once more. You will carry the tales of the city back into the silence of the desert, just as you brought the silence of the desert to the heart of the city. Word count 1066. Sakal final comment team. So, our journey with a Maston comes to a gentle close. You can feel the warmth of the Timbuktu evening air, a soft blanket after the heat of the day. The sharp, urgent sounds of the marketplace have faded, replaced by a softer, more distant murmur, like the gentle lapping of waves on a faraway shore. The courtyard is peaceful now, lit by the soft, flickering orange light of a single oil lamp. The scent of mint and dust and contentment hangs in the air. You can let the tension of the journey dissolve completely now, like a pinch of salt in A vast ocean of calm dot, there is no more sand to cross, no more stars to navigate. The responsibility has been met, the great task is done. All that is left is the quiet satisfaction of arrival, the feeling of safety within the ancient mud brick walls. You can feel your own breathing slow down, finding a deep and easy rhythm. Inhale the peace of the quiet courtyard. Exhale the last remnants of the day's worries. Your eyelids are growing heavy, like the valuable sacks of gold dust, weighted and ready for rest. The story has been told, the cycle is complete. A Maston's journey will begin again with another season, another caravan. But for tonight, for you, there is only this profound and welcome stillness. The hard edges of the day are softening, blurring into a comfortable haze. The cool woven rug. Beneath you, the sweet aftertaste of mint tea on your tongue. The silent companionship of the stars beginning to appear in the deep indigo sky above the city. Each sensation is a gentle anchor, holding you in this moment of perfect peace. You are safe. You are comfortable. You are here. Let the gentle murmur of the sleeping city be a lullaby, a soft hum that guides you effortlessly toward the shores of your own dreams. Allow your mind to drift, to float away from this story into one of your own making, carried on the slow, steady current of sleep. There is nothing more to do, nothing more to see. There is only rest. Deep, peaceful, and well-deserved rest. You've reached the end of another cozy, nappy tale. Sleep well, and remember you're always welcome here. Sweet dreams, nappy friend.